The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silence to honor Vincent Giamarva, an almost 20-year veteran of the New York State Thruway Authority, who tragically lost his life last Thursday, May 9th, while on the job at the Thruway work site. Vincent leaves behind his wife Patty of 40 years, 2 adult children, and 3 grandchildren. Reading of the Journal.
In Senate, Monday, May 13, 2024, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Sunday, May 12, 2024, was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentation of petitions, messages from the Assembly. Secretary will read.
Senator Prasad moves to discharge from the Committee on Codes Assembly Bill number 4737B. Is substituted for the identical Senate Bill 2376B, third reading calendar 731. Senator Ashby moves to discharge from the Committee on Corporations, Authorities, and Commissions. Assembly Bill number 7476 is substituted for the identical Senate Bill 5939, third reading calendar 952.
So ordered. Messages from the Governor, reports of standing committees, reports of select committees, communications and reports from state officers, motions and resolutions. Senator Gianaris.
Good afternoon, Mr. President. I wish to call up Senate Bill 4305, recalled from the Assembly, which is now at the desk.
The Secretary will read.
Calendar number 220, Senate Print 4305 by Senator Parker, enactment of the Public Service Law.
Move to reconsider the vote by which the bill was passed.
The Secretary will call the roll on reconsideration.
Adabo, Gianaris, Kruger, Ort, Sewell, Cousins, White, ayes 53.
The bill is restored to its place on the third reading calendar.
I offer the following amendment.
The amendments are received.
Amendments are also offered to the following third reading calendar bills by Senator Parker, calendar 498, by Senator Ramos, calendar 945.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator
I
Gianaris.
move to adopt the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 2349, 2379, 2414, and 2419.
All those in favor of adopting the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 2349, 2379, 2414, and 2419, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Let's now begin by taking up Resolution 2419 by Leader Stewart Cousins. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Webb on that resolution.
The Secretary will read.
Resolution 2419 by Senator Stewart Cousins, congratulating the 2024 New York State Senate Women of Distinction.
Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today with great pride and enthusiasm to speak in support of this resolution congratulating the 2024 New York State Senate Women of Distinction. I also want to thank our Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart Cousins, who, as we know, is the first woman to lead the Senate. When you think about the contributions of not only our Majority Leader, but all of the distinguished women that have joined us today in the Capitol, it is most certainly a momentous occasion, but it also serves as a reminder about the important role that women play across our communities every single day. This initiative, which was established 26 years ago in 1998, the Senate's Women of Distinction program is a testament to our commitment to honor exemplary women from across our great state. The 2024 Women of Distinction have demonstrated outstanding professional or personal achievements, an unwavering, and I would dare say unapologetic commitment to excellence, and a track record of accomplishments that merit this special recognition. Today, as we recognize the women of distinction, we celebrate the diversity of our state and the contributions made by women from every economic, ethnic, religious, and every other background. These women have shattered glass ceilings and in some instances, brick ceilings, fighting against stereotypes, bigotry, prejudice, and seemingly insurmountable obstacles paving the way for future generations of trailblazers. We applaud their character, their initiative, and commitment to their communities. From the pioneers of the women's suffrage movement to the present day, women have played and continue to play a crucial role in shaping the history of our great state. The 2024 Women of Distinction have contributed to the advancement of our culture through both traditional and non-traditional roles in society. They have dedicated themselves to enhancing the well-being of their communities, showcasing a long and sustained commitment to excellence. They have earned the recognition and applause of all the citizens of this great Empire State. Let us, as the New York State Senate, proudly stand together to congratulate the 2024 New York State Senate Women of Distinction. Mr. President, I proudly vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Webb. Senator Helming on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm honored this afternoon to speak on behalf of the Republican Conference as we recognize the outstanding female leaders from across our great state. On this, I think we can all agree. New York is a state with a history of formidable and courageous women. We're the proud home of Seneca Falls, the birthplace of the women's rights movement. I want to start by saying just 2 days ago on Sunday, we celebrated Mother's Day. And I want to take a moment to wish all the moms who are here today a happy Mother's Day. Whether you're a first-time mother, a grandmother, a single mom, a working mom, a stay-at-home mom, I hope you all enjoyed your special day. Women of Distinction is a lot like Mother's Day, as we recognize the females in our state who are doing extraordinary things in business, in education, in our hospitals, our nursing homes, and working direct care, on our farms, in nonprofits, in law enforcement and the military, in the halls of government, and right in their own living rooms. Their stories are uniquely motivating, but what all of our women of distinction have in common is a commitment to serving others. And in doing so, they're shaping the future of our local communities and our state. Every single day, they inspire us. And through the state's Women of Distinction program, they are inspiring the next generation of female leaders in New York. I like to think of the women that we're honoring today, that they've distinguished themselves by what I refer to as the 4 C's: contributions, character, caring, and commitment. They embody the enterprising and altruistic spirit of New York. Every day they live our motto of Excelsior, ever upward. They are achieving the highest standards of excellence and raising the bar for us and for future generations. To all of our women of distinction, on behalf of the Republican Conference, thank you. Thank you for being the light for others as we shine a light today on your accomplishments. I wanted to conclude quickly by acknowledging the honoree from my district, Mary Potter. Mary is the owner of 13 McDonald's restaurants in the greater Rochester and Finger Lakes area. She is one of only 10 female operators in the Empire region, stretching from Buffalo to Albany. Mary is here today with her husband, Tim, and many members of her McDonald's team. So, Mr. President, in closing, let me say this about the leadership of all of the remarkable women we are honoring today. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Congratulations to all of our women. I'm proud to support this resolution. I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Helming. To our guests and the many women of distinction in our chamber, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Now let's move on to Resolution 2414 by Senator Ryan. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Ryan.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2414 by Senator Ryan, commemorating the 2-year anniversary of the mass shooting at Tops Friendly Markets in Buffalo, New York on May 14, 2024, and honoring the victims, survivors' families, and community at large in wake of this devastating tragedy.
Senator Ryan on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's hard to believe that it's been 2 years since we're standing here talking about the tragedy in Buffalo that took 10 lives on May 14th, 2022. I have a vivid remembrance of that day because it was a beautiful sunny day. It was one of the first weekend days where it was warm and we're coming out of our winter hibernation and people are running errands. The streets are full of people in cars and walking around. And I went into the backyard for a few hours, left my cell phone in the kitchen. I was doing yard work and I started hearing a helicopter buzzing over and over. And then I started hearing a lot of sirens. And my wife came out and said, "You better come inside because your phone's blowing up." And it's not what I expected when I picked up that phone. So we know the story. A murderous racist drove 2.5 hours, seemingly for no reason, to come to Buffalo to open fire on innocent people at a supermarket. Celestine Cheney, Roberta Drury, Andre McNeil, Catherine Massey, Margus Morrison, Hayward Patterson, Aaron Salter, Geraldine Talley, Ruth Winfield, and Pearl Young. They all lost their lives within minutes that day. Christopher Braden, Zaire Goodman, Jennifer Warrington, they were all wounded but miraculously survived. The only thing that any of these people did to make them a target that day was to go live their ordinary lives and go shopping at a grocery store in a predominantly black neighborhood. 2 years have passed, but the memory is still just as fresh, it's just as raw. And for the families of the victim, grief hasn't gone away. The survivors, the trauma hasn't gone away. For our entire Buffalo community, the anger, the sorrow, the losses we all feel hasn't gone away. But I guess it's not supposed to go away. When we experience loss, grief doesn't dissipate over time. If you lose somebody and someone says it'll get better, it'll go away, that's a lie. It doesn't go away. What happens is we grow our life around it. We take that pain, we hold on to it, but we move forward because that's what we have to do. We learn how to live with the grief. We don't let it hold us back, but it doesn't go away. On May 14th, 2022, the white supremacists came to our city with one goal, and that was to tear a hole in the heart of the black community. And there's no doubt he opened up a painful wound. On that awful day, it was hard to see past the tragedy at hand. But even today, the pain is never far from the minds of those who lost loved ones. In Buffalo's black community, who witnessed a direct attack, they feel it every day. But in our collective grief, Buffalo has come together. With time, the community has begun to get back on its feet. And while we continue to mourn the losses, the people of the East Side are persevering. They're living their lives. They're celebrating birthdays, wedding anniversaries, holidays, graduations, and wedding. But each of those remembrances, each of those celebrations, there's something missing from everybody because something was taken that day that can never be put back. But every day, the people are sending a clear message, and that's one hateful act, no matter how much pain it caused, will not rip apart and break the spirit of our community. But the tragedy, it didn't happen in a vacuum. The east side of Buffalo, which is home to what we call Black Buffalo, has had much more to contend with than this awful, catastrophic day. The attack was layered upon decades of grinding, persistent, systemic racism. African Americans came to Buffalo as part of the Great Migration, full of hope with job opportunities to work in the steel and auto industries, to fill a labor need. But they were met with the North's version of Jim Crow. It's not as obvious, it's not as pernicious, but boy, is it every bit as destructive. They were met with redlining, housing discrimination, employment discrimination, and decades later, still persistent segregation. So May 14th was the explanation point of a slow-moving tragedy. So while the community slowly recovered from the attack, the baseline that they're returning to is as much of a problem today as it was 2 years ago. The area is still a food desert. The neighborhood is still barren from decades of demolitions and disinvestments. Every social indicator, whether it's individual wealth, family wealth, home ownership, health outcomes, Black Buffalonians in East Sides, worse off than anyone else in the whole city. So we're left with the important question to ponder. What are we going to do about it? Will this strategy catalyze us? Will it make us address the issues that have been weighing down Buffalo and other cities, communities for decades? I'm optimistic. I think we're finally starting to move in the right direction, but we have a lot of work to do as a state and as a country. But we're finally recognizing the institutional racism that led to the inequality that we see today. But real change, it's going to come slow, and it's only going to come if we all work together and we're all pulling in the same direction. Jillian Haynesworth was Buffalo's first poet laureate. She wrote a poem called Water, where she talks about that reality. The poem was installed at Tops Supermarket as part of the in-store memorial to the victims of the shooting. The poem's a hopeful call to all of us in the community to recognize that we all have a part to do. And as Jillian puts it, our small marks on this huge world are necessary. But let me read it to you in Jillian Haynesworth's words. And I don't know where she finds her optimism, but I applaud her for it. Let the hopeful, healing waters flow, ushering a rebirth of our sense of self. Let the flowing waters remind us of time, current, yet fleeting like life itself, large, yet within reach of our ancestors. Let the hopeful, healing waters flow, cleansing all pain and all fear, all hurt and regret. Let the water heal our people, reminding us that even our small marks on this huge world are necessary. Let the hopeful, healing waters flow. Let the water tell the stories of those who came before us, those who fought and those who believed in us, those with the strength and the power of a high tide, those with the meekness of a still pond. Let the beauty of the unknown offer comfort and hope, for within water there will always be life.
Thank you, Senator Ryan. Senator Sanders on the resolution.
I want to thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity, and thank Senator Ryan for his incisive words. The question becomes with all of us, where were you at the time of these shootings? And there are so many shootings that are going on that you start to blur. You can't remember if you were here or there, or was it this one or was it that one? And the danger, of course, is America becomes numb from the many shootings. The goal of the white supremacists was to accelerate a racial war. In their minds, or in his mind, America is descending into a pit, a racial pit, and he wanted to accelerate it. He wanted to plunge us ever further into a madness. The proper response, of course, of all good Americans is to do something that he would hate and the separatists would hate, and that is that we need to figure a way to turn to each other and not on each other. A way to figure out what are the commonalities that we all share, what are the goals that we believe in, what are the things of America that we want to hold on to and that we want to move forward. And this is why Senator Ryan, that there is a certain amount of hope, even from this audience right here, this area right here. The study you mentioned of the many problems of Buffalo, and they are enormous and not to be discarded, as there are many problems in other places. But we in this body have said that we are going to study the issue. We're going to study reparations. We're going to see what are the commonalities and how do we solve these things, so that we are taking some steps. We're taking steps together. They may be halting with some, tepid with others. Some may have to be pulled with us. But we are taking some steps, and we're taking them forward as Americans, as New Yorkers, towards a better future, towards a more perfect union. And I close with the words of Benjamin Franklin. And he taught us then, is what we should understand now. He said, we'd have to hang together, or certainly we will hang separately. That racial war that they speak of, the only way to defeat that is to not get into that swamp and to figure out ways of all of us moving to someplace better. So thank you for having us remember this. And it was not just the pain of Buffalo, it was the pain of all New Yorkers. All Americans should feel that pain and say that we were going to make sure that it doesn't happen again, and that Buffalo will not have to stand by itself. Thank you for reminding us.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Ryan, for your words, your dedication, and the spirit that you stirred today. I wasn't going to speak on this resolution, though I'm not shy to speak on resolutions generally, Mr. President, especially those of import in the city, state, country, about divisions that we can continue to overcome. But something stirred me today, and it was within water there is life. And there's so many metaphors that come to mind about the flow of water and how water never dies, how energy never dies, it's just transferred. And so I think about my role in this space as a legislator, as a new father for the third time, and I look at my newborn son, and I have an opportunity to shape his thoughts, his ability to learn, his ability to ambulate, his ability to be a citizen of positivity. If I have that ability to teach a new life, that I think we all have the ability to teach others around us. We can reteach, we can unlearn, and we can move forward. I've often said that in this chamber, we are able to get past certain points that maybe we didn't think we could. Every piece of legislation matters that we do in this chamber, and it matters not just for our constituents, it matters for the greater good of humanity in terms of unifying folks. In terms of people understanding, yes, there still is a problem with racism in America. Yes, there still is a problem with white supremacy in America. Yes, there still is a problem with guns in America. But if we're not talking to each other about that, and we stay in our respective echo chambers, nothing will change. I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody else in this chamber, but I think I'm pretty adept at reading the room. I think that we all want things to change for the better. And I think that it all starts with us. And so may God bless the lives and legacy of those folks that we lost in Buffalo. And I'm truly hopeful that we can learn from this and continue to understand that water is in fact life, Senator Ryan. Thank you for that stirring poem. I vote aye, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bailey. The question is on the resolution. Oh, I'm sorry. Senator Comrie on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to just say a few words about the resolution. And thank you to our leader, Andrew Stewart Cousins, and to Senator Ryan for his stirring words. You know, when this happened 2 years ago, this travesty that happened in Buffalo and is still impounding and impacting the lives of the people up there, it made me recall and understand that we have a lot to do as a citizenry to make sure that we teach our young people the incredible diversity of this state. The fact that this state was founded by people that wanted to change the world and change how they were respected in the world. The fact that Buffalo has always been a location where people came to try to make a new life. A lot of folks, Buffalo was part of the Underground Railroad and had many stops in Buffalo where people were able to take in and help people while they were trying to make sure that they could be able to be part of this incredible country that we are all in. We're all immigrants to this country, almost everybody in this room. I don't think there's a native Indian here. Maybe some folks that have some Indian in their blood, but all of us are immigrants to this country, and we must continue to remember that and continue to remember that we have to make sure that we pass on all our traditions to our children, that we pass on all our history to our children, that we can make sure that no child grows up in this state and understands that diversity is strength, that everyone's culture, while it needs to be respected, needs to be recognized and needs to be understood. And we've done a terrible job in this state of making sure that other people's cultures are understood because our education system is not taking care of or not embracing the fact that we need to share our diversity with people in the school system because we can't wait for other folks to do it. We have a responsibility as legislators to make that happen. And what happened in Buffalo was a result of a young man that had no cultural diversity, that had no understanding and was pushed to the internet to come up with hate in his heart to want to go kill people for no other reason than he was listening to hate on the internet. We have to do better as a state. We have to make sure that there's a curriculum throughout the state that teaches our children the beauty of our diversity, the beauty of our cultures, the understanding that we all need to be respected as people so no one can go out and think that they're better than anyone else. Because we all are trying to do the same thing in New York. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, you're trying to make a better life for your family, a better life for your community, opportunities for people to be understood. And the pain of Buffalo that's still happening, as Senator Ryan said, is that the same problems are still endemic. We haven't made the correct changes. We need to make those changes happen, or we'll have another tragedy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Comrie. The question is on the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Now let's move on to previously adopted Resolution 2343 by Senator Gurnardis. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Gurnardis.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2343 by Senator Gurnardis, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim May 14, 2024 as Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day in the state of New York.
Senator Gurnardis on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today to speak to commemorate a tragic event in history that occurred on April 24th. We commemorate nationwide on April 24th, and that, of course, is the genocide of millions of Armenians by the Ottoman Empire. Mankind has committed many terrible atrocities over the course of the 20th century. But what many historians consider to be the first genocide of the 20th century still does not always get the recognition and remembrance that its victims deserve. On April 24th, 1915, a generation before the terrible atrocities of the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, ultra-nationalist Turkish factions known as the Young Turks began a years-long campaign to systematically wipe out Armenians, as well as Greeks, Pontians, Assyrians, and other Christian minorities that lived in the Ottoman Empire. These communities were forced into death marches and placed in concentration camps. Their churches were destroyed. Their towns and neighborhoods were set on fire. In 1923, the Ottoman Empire set fire to the entire city of Smyrna, where my family hails from, in an attempt to kill everyone living there. The victims were not only those killed during massacres at home. Many others died during deportations and under conditions of starvation, dehydration, and disease. On the eve of World War I, there were as many as 2 million Armenians in the Ottoman Empire. By 1922, just a few years later, there were fewer than 400,000. Today, we pause to mourn the murdering of 1.5 million Armenians, along with 800,000 Greeks and hundreds of thousands of Assyrians, Pontians, and others. Mr. President, we have an obligation to not only never forget this awful legacy, but to proactively remember and honor the victims. And today is an opportunity to do just that. It's also a chance to uplift and celebrate the Armenian community that has survived and thrived throughout the world, including right here in New York. We're lucky enough today to be joined today by many members of that community, some who have traveled from New York City, some who live right here in Albany, and some who are even visiting from Washington, D.C. In particular, I want to thank the cultural advisor to the Armenian Embassy, Vicky Shohag Havanesian, Father Stefanos Djukian, who is the parish priest at St. Peter's Armenian Apostolic Church, and others who are joined here from organizations such as the Armenian Youth Federation, the Armenian National Committee of New York, the Armenian Assembly of America, the Armenian Engineers and Scientists of America, the Armenian Bar Association, and the Daughters of Vartan of the Mid-Atlantic region. And Mr. President, just before we started session today, I learned that one of our very own Sergeant-at-Arms, Greg Krikorian, is also of Armenian descent. He's probably outside right now in the Senate lobby. I'm very grateful to all of you for joining us here today. Your presence is also an opportunity to chart a course for a brighter future and to identify ways that we can support New York's Armenian community for generations to come, whether that be through support for cultural initiatives and community spaces, through investments in economic and social development programs, or through increasing opportunities for political and civic engagement. In recognizing and remembering the Armenian genocide here today, we pay tribute to their lives, and we remember the tragedy that occurred to the Armenian, Greek, Assyrian, and Pontic people. We also carry their memory to this present moment when many ethnic, racial, and religious minorities around the world face renewed hatred and bigotry. And we commit ourselves to ensuring that on our watch, such atrocities shall never happen again. Mr. President, I proudly vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gurnardes. To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. The resolution was adopted on May 7th. Senator Gianaris.
And now let's move on to Resolution 2379 by Senator May. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator May.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2379 by Senator May, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim May 12 through 18, 2024 as Fibromyalgia Week, Awareness Week in the state of New York.
Senator May on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am pleased to sponsor this resolution for Fibromyalgia Awareness Week and to welcome members of the Fibromyalgia Task Force of New York State, Minda Conroe and Dr. Becky Mausteller. The task force is composed of fibromyalgia patients, researchers, physicians, and advocates throughout the state. I am one of the lucky ones. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia about 20 years ago, but I've been pretty much symptom-free for about 10 years now. But I know what it feels like when every muscle and tendon in your body aches and all you want to do is lie down and rest, but you have to care for a baby or put food on the table or do a day's work. I also know what it feels like when doctors look at you and say, there's nothing we can do, or worse, it's all in your head. It's because of advocates like you that this is changing, that people, doctors, medical professionals, and people in the communities around you are recognizing that fibromyalgia is real. It is debilitating. It is something we need to take seriously, and it is something we need to find treatments and cures for. So I want to thank you for what you are doing, and urge my colleagues to pay attention to this disease and not dismiss it the way it has been dismissed in the past. I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator May. To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Next up, previously adopted Resolution 2071 by Senator Rhodes. Read its title. Recognize Senator Rhodes.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2071 by Senator Rhodes, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim May 17, 2024 as Necrotizing Enterocolitis Awareness Week in the city of New York.
Senator Rhodes on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am proud to rise in support of this resolution. As its sponsor, we get to take the floor to do many things and use this incredible platform to celebrate happy occasions, the championships of many of our student athletes, and incredible accomplishments of many of our students in their academic excellence. We commemorate tragic occasions as we've done today, speaking about the tragedy in Buffalo and the tragedy of the Armenian genocide. We also use this platform to raise awareness about many conditions and illnesses that unfortunately impact our world today in an attempt to try and find solutions and cures for those. And I rise before you to commemorate an issue that's close to my heart as well as close to the hearts of many of our constituents. Necrotizing enterocolitis is a devastating gastrointestinal disease that primarily affects premature infants. It's a silent enemy that actually attacks the gastrointestinal lining, killing that vital tissue and ultimately severely damaging and oftentimes leading to the death of newborn infants. NEC has a mortality rate as high as 50%, a lethality rate for premature babies higher than meningitis, smallpox, and cholera. But through awareness, education, and advocacy, we can make strides in preventing and treating this insidious condition. Necrotizing enterocolitis is the most common cause of death in hospitalized premature infants after 2 weeks of age. Babies born prematurely with medical complications like congenital heart disease are most at risk of NEC. Thousands of babies develop NEC each year, and hundreds of babies die from this complex intestinal condition. Now, this illness is one where parents have to be trusted and valued as the most important tools and members of their baby's care team. And healthcare providers should partner with families to provide the best care for infants at risk for NEC. And although the risk of necrotizing enterocolitis cannot be fully eliminated, and there are not yet sure ways to stop or cure NEC, preventative measures are effective at reducing risks. Breast milk is actually one of the most effective ways to help prevent NEC in medically fragile infants. And when the mother's milk is unavailable, pasteurized donor human milk is the next safest option for babies at risk of NEC, as formula does not protect against the risk of NEC. There is one organization, the NEC Society, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit organization founded and led by a bereaved mother from California whose son died from complications of NEC. And the NEC Society is the world's leading charity working to accelerate NEC research, education, and advocacy. And with us today in the chamber is a young woman by the name of Stephanie Rudiaz from my hometown in Belmore. She has been a champion for necrotizing enterocolitis research after experiencing firsthand the severity of this condition and after facing a devastating loss of her own. She serves on the board of directors for the NEC Society. And I want to take a moment. Stephanie, thank you so much for being here. And I must say In my 10 years of public life, first as a county legislator and now having the honor of serving in this chamber, one of the things that touches my heart most are people like yourself who have taken an enormous tragedy and turned it into an opportunity to do good for others. It's the most beautiful way to pay honor to those that we've lost, to those that have been affected by this illness, and I want to thank you for your tremendous work. I want to thank you for your advocacy, and I want to thank the NEC Society for everything that it does to raise awareness. And I am happy that I can stand up today on the floor of this chamber and raise awareness both to the members here as well as to the public watching today of this tragic illness. And I am happy to stand in support of this resolution asking that the governor proclaim today, May 17, 2024, as Necrotizing Enterocolitis Awareness Day in the state of New York. I proudly vote aye, and I would ask that you, Mr. President, recognize our guest in this chamber and provide her the privileges and courtesies of the House. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Rhodes. To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and the courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. The resolution was adopted on April 3rd. Senator Gianaris.
Previously adopted Resolution 2231 by Senator Parker. Let's take that up, read the resolution's title, and recognize Senator Parker.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2231 by Senator Parker, commemorating the inaugural Prince Hall Day at the New York State Capitol on May 14, 2024.
Senator Parker on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you know, I'm State Senator Kevin Parker. I represent the 21st District in Brooklyn, which is Flatbush and East Flatbush, Midwood, Ditmas Park, Canarsie, Flatlands, Bergen Beach, Marine Park, and Mill Basin. I'm the Majority Whip here in the New York State Senate, and as well as the Chairman of the Energy and Telecommunications Committee. What many of you don't know, I'm also the Senior Warden of Sons of Kings Lodge number 123 in the 2nd District of Brooklyn, a member of a very noble fraternity of Prince Hall Masons. And I am very proud of this organization, very happy to have helped organize today. Some people don't know what Masonry is. Some people are confused by it. Simply as this, it is a beautiful and profound system of morality, veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. But at its base is two things. It's a fraternity and it's a charity. And Prince Hall Masons have been around since the founding of America. In fact, Prince Hall Masonry is the third oldest organization here in the state of New York, in our great state, right? After Mother Zion AME Church and Abyssinian Baptist Church. Prince Hall Masonry begins approximately March 6, 1776, when 15 African-American men were initiated in an Irish military lodge in Boston, Massachusetts. Prince Hall himself was an abolitionist, an educator, a businessman, a philanthropist, somebody who did a lot to end the terrible institution of enslavement, and actually went around Boston trying to gather help from whites who they thought would come to their aid. And what he found was that many of those folks in that time were Masons, and so he sought to become a Freemason in order to be in proximity of the power that he thought would help him achieve abolitionism for African people in the New World. From that lodge, spread lodges across the state, across the country, including Pennsylvania, New York, and Rhode Island. And so I'm very, very proud to stand here as a member of an organization that also includes the Order of the Eastern Star, which is a way to include the wives, mothers, widows, daughters, and sisters of Master Masons into Masonry. And together, they represent almost 10,000 members across the great state of New York and are found in every single community. And so here today, this resolution, Mr. President, celebrates Prince Hall Day of Advocacy at the Capitol. The first time that Prince Hall Masons have come together to come to the Capitol to meet with state legislators and talk about their legislative agenda, talk about the needs in their community, talk about the work that they're already doing. As I indicated, they're a fraternity, but they're also a charity. They do a lot of work around civil rights, around food insecurity, around addressing the needs on important and health disparities like HIV and AIDS, breast cancer, lupus, prostate cancer. They stand in the gap as it relates to income inequality and trying to make sure that communities have enough food and clothing and shelter. During the migrant crisis, both chapters of the Order of the Eastern Star and lodges and Prince Hall Masonry have stepped up to welcome migrants and help them find food and shelter and clothing. And so today we honor them, and today we are joined by the conservator of Prince Hall Masonry, the most worshipful Grand Master, Gregory Roberson Smith, Jr., who is the Grand Master of the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge in the state of New York. We're also joined by the Deputy Master, the Reverend Dr. Darren Morton, who is also the pastor of Macedonian Baptist Church in Mount Vernon, as well as the Grand Worthy Matron of the Eureka Grand Chapter of the Order of the Eastern Star of the state of New York, in the persons of Yvonne Latson. I want to thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all that you do for the people of the state of New York. And thank you for making this day possible and making sure the voices of the people of our communities are heard throughout the state. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Parker. Senator Comrie on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Parker for initiating this first lobby day for the Masonic groups in New York State. I want to thank Gregory Roberson for working to make sure that the Masonic world, which is as Senator Parker said, a historic world, a world that has been teaching people to do righteous things and work in the community in a philanthropic area for many years. I'm an honorary terrible member of Lebanon Lodge 51. When I say that, I only get there once, 54 rather. I even forgot the number. I go there a couple of times a year, but they've embraced me. Lebanon Lodge, as Senator Parker says, has done a lot of charitable things, working every year to have events for people that are in need, feeding people. Especially one of their specialties is making sure that new mothers are given an opportunity to get all of the things that they need to start their life with a new child. They do many opportunities teaching kids on how to eat in a restaurant properly for the first time. They've done many other things in the community as well. Grandmaster has been working on a theme, One Family, which has been the motto, linking jurisdictions not just throughout New York State, but throughout Pennsylvania and New Jersey, where they're focusing on bridging the gap between other jurisdictions, such as the Caribbean Grand Lodge and the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts. He's brought in notable members into Masonry, making sure that there's a new generation of young people that are moving into Masonry as well. He's been working to make sure that his platform and the awareness of free Masonry, working through new modes like the social media presence, attending events throughout the state and throughout the Eastern Seaboard, from participating in the Walk in Selma in Alabama to working at the BHPA 53rd Conference. He's also a member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. We got to talk about that, right? Because I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, but you know, it's one of the things that both groups have taught me, the understanding of giving, the understanding of helping others as you move along the way, to use the guiding tenets of Freemasonry as a guiding compass, making sure that members are dedicating themselves to the fight for justice and equity and equality, especially for younger people and younger men who need some direction. So I want to thank all of you for coming today. It's a great showing of the first of many opportunities for you to come to Albany to show and to show out and show off a little bit, but also to make sure that people understand that Freemasonry needs to be respected, that your philanthropic endeavors need to be resourced and given opportunities to continue to shine. And I'm honored to be part of this resolution, and thank you, Senator Parker, for making this day happen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Comrie. Senator Clear on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too rise to thank Senator Parker for this historic Prince Hall Advocacy Day resolution here in Albany. The Prince Hall Lodge, I've grown up with this institution in my district as a child. I'm a child of a Freemason, and I can tell you that they have been ever present in our community doing good works, service, charity, teaching values, character. These are so important to our communities that may not belong to certain pedigrees, but we have always had the Masons and the Eastern Stars to be an example for our children to stand in the gap, as Senator Parker mentioned. And they continue to stand in the gap today. So I'm just really happy to see them here today, and am proud to have Prince Hall Masonic Temple in my district, and Grandmaster Robeson, and Reverend Morton and Grandworthy Matron Ladson. I thank you for your work and your continued service in Harlem and throughout the state of New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Clear. Senator Sanders on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, sir. It's good to see you in your uniform. To the leadership, it's good to see you here. Senator Parker, in his attempt to put a lot of information out and to be brief at it, left out an important fact of the Prince Hall Masons, that they were indeed the first Masons in the United States. They received their charter from England weeks before the other group received their charter from England. So were it not for racism, I guess all Masons would be Prince Hall Masons in the U.S. It is good that you're out here. It's good that you're giving back, and please continue to give back. I represent Southeast Queens, and we have felt the goodness of your hearts, of what you have done. We appreciate your role in giving leadership to such a community. Continue to come out. Continue to make sure that they understand that you are here, and continue to, and I know you will continue when you have such an illustrious son sitting amongst us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and I take a seat.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I too want to thank Senator Parker and, of course, all of our distinguished leaders that are here today. I am a daughter of a member of the Order of the Eastern Stars, and also a proud member myself, Sheba Chapter number 3. And so one of the things I just wanted to lift up, and of course for all of our guests that are here, is that these are organizations that not only, as Senator Parker alluded to, do a lot of work in the areas of charity, but also in education. In our communities, you will find members of this great organization leading initiatives to lift up young people, also getting them more involved in our communities through civic engagement, and so much more. And so again, congratulations on this most certainly beautiful occasion, being here in the chamber and in our Capitol, and I look forward to supporting the continued good work that this organization provides to everyone, because it is an inclusive organization. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Scarcella-Spanton on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Parker, for bringing forward this resolution today. We have some people here from my district, Silver Lake Lodge number 59. We have the Dr. Reverend Carolina and Sean Stratford, two of my wonderful constituents, and I will say that they do tremendous, tremendous work in our community on Staten Island, whether we have back-to-school giveaways, or we have a business who's in need of help, or we have a family who needs something during the holidays. These are usually my first couple of phone calls. They are so ingratiated in everything that we do to give back to our community, and I want to thank them for being here, thank them for everything that they do, and also I have to give a special shout out to the Silver Queens as well on Staten Island, so thank you.
Thank you. Senator Weber on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank the sponsor, Senator Parker, for bringing this resolution to the chamber today. You know, I've had the honor of meeting many great Masons over the years, including my constituent and my good friend right up there, Grant Valentine. Grant Valentine and I have known each other for a long time. Grant Valentine is someone who embodies public service like most of the Masons do, who's someone who always steps up to fill a void, to do extra work within the community. So I'm proud to recognize him today. His lovely wife Linda is there too as well. Thank you for being here, and thank you for continuing to do all the things that you do in your community. Thank you. I proudly vote aye.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Fernandez on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Parker, for this resolution in welcoming and honoring our brothers and sisters. I rise and to share that I am too a sister, Order of the Eastern Star, Lorelei chapter 581. And it's just a great feeling to always see and recognize other members, brothers and sisters, whether through the pen, whether through wardrobe, and through action. And it is so heartwarming to see that everywhere I go, there is another brother or sister out there doing the work secretly or not secretly. So in this moment that we are being not secret, it is truly commendable, the legacy that has been and continues to be of the work by our Freemasons and our sisters. And I'm just very honored to stand in unity with you here in our Senate chamber. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Parker, for introducing this resolution. When I think about the Masonic Order, I think about service. When I think about service, I think about Reverend Dr. Darren Morton, who is not only the city controller of the Mount Vernon, he is the pastor of Macedonia Baptist Church. He is a member of the Masonic Order, and he's also a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and that's a lot of service. But Dr. Morton is not alone in having that level, those degrees, no pun intended, in the amount of service that he does. Throughout my life, I have been shaped by Masons. My grandfather, James, was a Mason from Johnson County, North Carolina, and my grandmother, Lena, was also was a star in also Johnson County, North Carolina. So I've learned about the legacy of service that you wonderful folks, Prince Hall, are doing. So I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in and just say thank you for all the work that you do in the city of Mount Vernon, in the Bronx, and well beyond, anywhere where you can hear your voice. We know that a brother or sister of the order is there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Bailey. Senator Borrello on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also like to extend my warm welcome to our brothers that are here from the Prince Hall Lodge. As a member of the Silver Lodge in Silver Creek, New York, number 757, thank you all for being here, and thank you for your advocacy and the amazing work that the Freemasons do throughout the world, but particularly here in New York State. There has never been a day where I haven't said thank God for the Freemasons and the work that they have done. As Senator Fernandez says, sometimes it's secret, but always out there helping the people. And God bless you all, and welcome to your Advocacy Day.
Thank you, Senator Borrello. To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. The resolution was adopted on April 16th. Senator Gianaris.
Next up is Resolution 2349 by Senator Webb. Please read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Webb.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2349 by Senator Webb, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim May 14, 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Day in the state of New York.
Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to thank my Senate colleagues and, of course, our Majority Leader for bringing this resolution forward to memorialize and proclaim May 14th as Domestic Violence Awareness and Prevention Day in New York State. This resolution that I'm speaking on today is important. Earlier today, we introduced a series of bills, 9-bill package around this important issue as it pertains to domestic violence. And so as we know, here in our chamber, we have and continue to push through policy and practice resources to address this important issue. Domestic violence impacts New Yorkers from all social groups. It does not discriminate. It impacts us regardless of race, socioeconomic status, gender identity, sex or sexual orientation, ethnicity, or age. While domestic violence certainly does not discriminate, as I said a moment ago, its impact is experienced disproportionately by women, Black women and Black men, and the LGBTQIA+ community. It is critically important that we raise awareness of this pervasive issue in all the forms that it may take. Domestic violence is a pattern of behavior used by an individual to maintain power and control over their intimate partner. It may include physical, emotional, financial, and sexual abuse. It can cause physical, mental, emotional, and financial trauma to survivors. Here in New York, we have some of the greatest demand for domestic violence support services in the country. I implore us all to continue to work to increase support for survivors and domestic violence support services and policies to ensure that survivors and their families have safety and the ability to heal. I am honored to be voting in favor of this resolution, and I hope my colleagues will join me by voting aye. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Scarcella-Spanton on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to Senator Webb for introducing this resolution today. We're going to be voting on a package of bills. It's always about making sure that we look out for these victims, but something I always want to point out is I think it's very important that we highlight the different forms of abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, financial, spiritual, everything boils down to power and control. And it's very important, too, in the language that we use. We often will say domestic violence, but that sometimes carves out other victims who are suffering from all different forms of this abuse. At the root cause of this is coercive control over another person. We must continue to modernize our laws to encompass technology abuse, ways that people can be tracked, and I proudly vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Next up is previously adopted Resolution 2335 by Senator Breslin. Please read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Breslin.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 2335 by Senator Breslin, commending the Capital Region Chamber of Commerce upon the occasion of celebrating the Military Appreciation Event on May 14, 2024.
Senator Breslin on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here to recognize through the creation by the Capital District Chamber of Commerce the economic military impact to the Capital District. Now, I know legislators sitting here come from all parts of the state, but it's hard to recognize in a quiet way the impact the Capital District has on the military economy as well as the local economy. And I cite a couple here. It's the United Military Affairs Council, and they support among others, the New York Air National Guard's 109th Airport Wing, the Naval Supports Facility in Saratoga Springs, the Nuclear Power Training Unit in Boston Spa, the Watervliet Arsenal, as well as a number of other military establishments. And I don't know, many of you are aware of the fact that the Watervliet Arsenal, known as America's Cannon Factory, began its manufacturing operation during the War of 1812. And I don't remember it at that time. So, and it's the oldest continuously operating arsenal in the United States. Today it manufactures weaponry for the high-powered tank and artillery systems that serve the bedrock of America and allied militaries. The 109th Airport Wing, located in Scotia, in Schenectady County, flies the world's only large specialized ski planes that support the Arctic and Antarctic operations. The recruitment offices throughout this area, in total, there are hundreds and hundreds of people working for government-related facilities that provide tremendous impact to the economies of the Capital District. And I salute the Capital District Chamber of Commerce for recognizing that economic benefit, which provides a protection benefit to all of us. So we're blessed here today to have with us Vice President of the Capital District Chamber of Commerce, Tom O'Connor, as well as Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Marchant of the U.S. Albany Recruiting, who's the battalion commander, and Sergeant First Class Roberto Wells of the 2nd Platoon B Company. And I would ask that the State Senate salute the three of them.
To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. The resolution was adopted on May 7th. Senator Gianaris.
Mr. President, all of these resolutions are open for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor, please notify the desk. Senator Gianaris.
Please recognize Senator Ramos for an introduction.
Senator Ramos for an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to say namaste and tashi delek to Adhikar, an amazing organization that operates in my district, led by Narbada Chetri, its executive director, and her entire team who are here. I just want to recognize all of their hard work in serving our immigrant population, particularly our Nepalese and Tibetan neighbors and beyond. They have very great adult education programming, and they do a great job of organizing our nail salon workers in Queens and beyond. Thank you for all you do.
To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. Senator Gianaris.
Now let's take up the reading of the calendar.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 140, Senate Print 3340 by Senator Mayer, an act to amend the civil practice law and rules.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect on the 120th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 140, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rhodes, Steck, Tedisco, and White. Ayes 48, nays 12.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 206, Senate Print 303 by Senator Salazar, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Senator Salazar to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill, as well as collectively the 9 bills passing today related to crime victims and survivors, serve, for one, to improve access to services and supports for victims and survivors, to clarify parts of the law that are ambiguous, to prevent harm, including domestic violence, from continuing or happening in the first place, and to empower victims and survivors to take back what has been taken from them and to heal from the harm that they have experienced. Thank you, Mr. President. I vote aye.
Senator Salazar to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 237, Senate Print 1716 by Senator Skoufis, an act to amend the general municipal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 237, those senators voting in the negative are Senators Councilmember Fitzpatrick, Gallivan, Martins, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Rhodes, Rollison, and Ryan. Ayes 51, nays 9.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 304, Senate Print 1304 by Senator Comrie, an act to amend the administrative code of the City of New York.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 304, those senators voting in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Councilmember Fitzpatrick, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Martins, Murray, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Rollison, Steck, Tedisco, Weber, and White. Ayes 42, nays 18.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 311, Senate Print 653 by Senator Ort, an act to amend the vehicle and traffic law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect on the 120th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 350, Senate Print 4555B by Senator Fernandez, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the same date and in the same manner as a section of Chapter 66, as a section of 66 of Chapter 777, excuse me.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Senator Fernandez to explain her vote.
Thank you so much. Just wanted to thank this body, this chamber, for not debating this bill because it is very self-explanatory. And it's something that, yes, must be in effect as soon as possible because as of right now in New York State, if you choose to have a beverage, an alcoholic beverage, maybe you have a little too much and you then get sexually assaulted or raped, it's technically your fault. So this bill would repeal that and remove the voluntary intoxication exclusion from any defense, giving the survivor a fair and real chance at seeking justice from their attacker. So I truly thank this body for its support, and I vote aye.
Senator Fernandez to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 46, Senate Print 5131 by Senator Webb, an act to amend the retirement and Social Security law.
Read the last section.
Section 8, this act shall take effect on the 180th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 543, Senate Print 1815 by Senator Stavisky, an act to amend the criminal procedure law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 543, voted in the negative, Senator Bridgeport. Ayes 59, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 544, Senate Print 1951 by Senator Holman Siegel, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 1st of November.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 584, Senate Print 5502 by Senator Scarcella Stanton, an act to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 731, Assembly number 4737B by Assemblymember Levine, an act to amend the penal law.
Read the last section.
Section 7, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 731, voted in the negative, Senator Brisbois. Ayes 59, nays 1.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 772, Senate Print 1382 by Senator Comrie, enactment of the Public Authorities Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 863, Senate Print 8977 by Senator Webb, enact to amend the executive law.
Read the last section.
Section 6, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Senator Webb to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank again our Senate Majority Leader and all of my colleagues for their support. This legislation aims to save lives and reduce these statistics, as I mentioned earlier, by providing law enforcement with a tool designed to help them identify victims who are most at risk for intimate partner homicide. According to a 2021 report, of the estimated 4,970 female victims of murder and non-negligent manslaughter in 2021, data reported by law enforcement agencies indicated that 1/3, or 34%, were killed by an intimate partner. By comparison, about 6% of the 17,970 males that were murdered that year were victims of intimate partner homicide. This legislation seeks to reduce these statistics by requiring that officers conduct a lethality assessment when responding to a domestic violence incident. That information will be included in the domestic incident report, which is currently already done by law enforcement, which includes information about the victim, the alleged offender, and the details of the incident. Officers will be required to advise the victim of the results and refer them to local domestic violence programs for support. The officer must also provide the victim with the number of the New York State Domestic and Sexual Violence Hotline. Based on the assessment, the officer may file for an extreme risk protection order if there is credible information suggesting a likelihood of serious harm. New York State will join other states, once this is hopefully signed into law, that currently do this particular lethality assessment, including Maryland and most recently Florida and Utah. There are also counties currently right now in New York State that also utilize this lethality assessment, including my home county of Broome, but also Westchester and Dutchess counties. We know that lethality assessments do work to reduce female homicides committed by men by 40%. Not only do lethality assessments help law enforcement identify potential victims, but they also empower victims with self-protective steps to help them escape fatal encounters. Women who participated in the program were significantly more likely to remove or hide their partner's weapons, obtain formal services for domestic violence, to establish safety strategies with friends and family, and to obtain some form of protection against their partner. And I'm proud to sponsor this legislation to ensure that we continue to take steps as a state to protect victims of crime in every way that we can. I vote aye and encourage my colleagues to do the same. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Webb to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Rollison to explain his vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank Senator Webb for moving this bill forward, and I want to thank all of my colleagues for supporting this bill. As Senator Webb said, Dutchess County has had a lethality instrument tool within its public safety system since 2014. And I can tell you, over those years, the tool is helping victims of domestic violence identify the seriousness of their offender and the ability for that offender to reoffend. And as Senator Webb said, to make plans to prevent that from happening. prevent that from being a victim again. Safety plans, working with the criminal justice system through the DA's office and DV advocates. And I'll leave with just one more statistic. In the past 5 years in Dutchess County, there has been an increase of 49% of victims contacting an advocate at the scene of their report through that police officer, which means that that assessment tool is showing those victims of their vulnerability and getting connected with that advocate right then and there. And of course, the advocates are following up even if they don't make contact from the scene. Lives are being saved, and families are having a much better chance of staying intact with the offender someplace else. So, Senator Webb, thank you. My colleagues, thank you. This is a great bill, and it's another demonstration of what we do here, putting public safety first. Thank you, Mr. President. I proudly vote aye.
Senator Rallison to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 908, Senate Print 1055 by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day, it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 910, Senate Print 1791 by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the Public Service Law.
Read the last section.
Section 5, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 911, Senate Print 1860 by Senator Brooke, an act to amend the Labor Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 180th day, it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 911, voted in the negative are Senators Borrello and Gallivan. Ayes 58, nays 2.
Bill is passed.
Calendar number 912, Senate Print 2352 by Senator Kavanaugh, an act to amend the Real Property Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day, it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 912, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Canzeri, Fitzpatrick, Felder, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Rollison, Stack, Tedesco, Weber, and White. Ayes 39, nays 21.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 931, Senate Print 2463B by Senator Prasad, an act to amend the Public Health Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day, it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 939, Senate Print 2278A by Senator Clear, an act to amend the General Business Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Clear to explain her vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. The consequences that a survivor of domestic violence, elder abuse, or other forms of exploitation must face are often complex, deep-seated, and extend into all areas of the survivor's life, including finances. Almost every case of abuse has an economic component to it, and the average survivor is often put into thousands of dollars of debt by their abuser. This bill sets up a formalized process so that any survivor who was the victim of a coerced debt may apply to have the collection activities suspended pending a review of documentation that the debt was in fact coerced. In the ideal, after the review process, the survivor will no longer be responsible for the debt. In those cases where after review, a negative finding of coercion is rendered, both an appeal and a private right of action are possible avenues of redress for the survivor. In all, this bill ultimately seeks a balanced approach where survivors are allowed to grow, heal, and move on with their life and are not burdened for the rest of their lives by debt incurred under coercion. I proudly vote aye.
Senator Clear to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 939, those senators voting in the negative are Senators Borrello, Kanzeri Fitzpatrick, Gallivan, Lanza, Matera, Oberacker, O'Mara, and Ort. Ayes 52, nays 8.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 952, Assembly number 7476 by Assemblymember Steck, an act in relation to permitting the Albany Cemetery Association to file a certificate of amendment of certificate of incorporation with the Department of State.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 60.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 975, Senate Print 259 by Senator Serrano, an act to amend the education law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Adabo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator Serrano to explain his vote.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Communities that I represent in the South Bronx and East Harlem, and indeed communities all across the state of New York, often suffer from health disparities, preventable chronic diseases that afflict certain communities. And there are many ways to address health disparities in our community, increasing access to health care, but also ensuring that we have cultural awareness and competency in the medical profession will also go a long way to ensuring better health outcomes and better connection between communities and healthcare professionals. So I proudly vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Serrano, to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results. Announce the results.
In relation to calendar 975, those senators voted in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Felder, Gallivan, Griffo, Helming, Lanza, Martinez, Matera, Murray, Oberacker, O'Mara, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Rollison, Steck, Tedesco, Weber, and White. Also Senator Scarcella Spanton. Ayes 39, nays 21.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris, that completes the reading of today's calendar.
Going back to motions for a second, Mr. President. On behalf of Senator Breslin, on page 42, I offer the following amendments to calendar 798, Senate 2798, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendments are received, and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
On behalf of you, Mr. President, on page 33, I offer the following amendments to calendar 653, Senate 1058, and ask that said bill retain its place on the third reading calendar.
The amendments are received, and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Gianaris.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
I move to adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday, May 15th at 3 p.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, May 15th at 3 p.m.